And hello, all. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Fierce Review. This is Lala Madness, and you know where to reach me at all social media platforms at Lala Madness, Instagram at Lala Madness _official, and also you can email me at lmfiercereview@gmail.com. Now, in this episode, we'll actually be talking about the daily aspirin, which people use. They're called baby aspirin, generally speaking, which is like your 81 milligram aspirin dose, that's been used to generally prevent heart attacks, which is actually no longer recommended for older adults. So we've all been told for years, take your baby aspirin once a day, the 81 milligram aspirin, and it'll reduce your chances of a heart attack or a stroke, chances of one. Okay, so I actually pulled some facts and got some information on why it may not be a thing that you need to do anymore, especially, and it's also age derived as far as what's good for certain age groups and what's not, and also certain health groups. That all makes a difference. But the general consensus, as we know, is that you just take your baby aspirin and it'll help you out there. However, aspirin is actually an antiplatelet medication, which means it prevents your platelets from pumping together and forming blood clots that can trigger a heart attack or stroke. And you also need aspirin if you already have heart disease. So, interesting. Now, we do know that aspirin is also a blood thinner. That's the main purpose of it. So it does cause other problems. If you've been taking it and you realize you didn't need to take it, it would just thin your blood ridiculously, and it could cause other internal issues, which we'll get into as well. So more than half of Americans between age 45 and 75 report taking a low dose or baby aspirin daily, whether they are healthy or not. So whether they've been told to take it, they're just taking it just because that's the normal thing that they've heard is the best form of practice to do as far as to keep themselves healthy, but that may not be the case. So a study with actually 20,000 people has showed that it is not recommended to take low-dose aspirin. Aspirin causes thin blood, as I just mentioned, and people aged 40 to 70 with issues with cholesterol, problems managing their sugar, heart disease, strokes, or heart attacks are candidates for possibly taking or continuing to take the low-dose aspirin. But that is in that particular health group. So using aspirin in younger age groups is now a class 2B, 2 as in the number 2 and B as in boy, recommendation. Now, meaning that it's not necessarily the best course of action. There is much debate among experts and the data is not definitive. However, now more data has come out since this statement was made by Campbell that the medicine is not necessarily, or the baby aspirin or low dose aspirin is not necessarily the best thing to do in order to prevent heart attacks, unless you've already had a heart attack or you've had a stroke or you're predisposed to it according to your doctor or genetics. Okay, so now something like having 3 eggs or more per week can cause an increased risk of heart disease and early death as well. So that's just something that we know, some people like to have their meat, eggs, and toast, or grits, eggs, and something, yeah, you can have it, but you shouldn't have it in an exuberant amount, or you shouldn't have it every day, because we all know that eggs cause high cholesterol, which high cholesterol can then cause you to have these issues where you need to take baby aspirin, or an increased risk for heart disease or a stroke thereafter. Now, don't, and I repeat, don't take a daily aspirin if you're over 70 and don't have heart disease, including past heart attacks or stroke. And if you're healthy and have never had an elevated risk of heart disease, you should not take aspirin, as it can cause severe internal bleeding, and once again, it thins the blood. So that could cause GI or gastrointestinal problems within your GI tract, because, and that would affect other organs as well, because your blood is so thin. It also could cause anemia, which then you realize why you're cold all the time, because your blood is thin as hell. So that's the recommendation, to not do so, especially if you're over 70. That's going to cause you additional problems. Also important, if you're currently taking baby aspirin, don't stop taking a daily dose cold turkey. It could actually create a rebound effect that can trigger a heart attack, especially if you've already suffered one before. So if you just stop taking it, that could cause other issues. So you would probably have to wean yourself down or take one maybe every other day until you wean yourself off of it to not take it anymore. If that's what you choose to do, if you decide you want to get off of it once you've realized that it's not something that's going to actually help you. Okay. A 2017 Swedish study actually published in the journal Circulation found that abruptly stopping taking a daily aspirin risked the increase of a heart attack or stroke by 37%. So, it raised the risk of a heart attack or stroke by 37%. So by you stopping taking it immediately or cold turkey, as I mentioned, that would increase your risk by 37% from you actually having what you're trying to prevent from having, which is that heart attack or stroke. So, you would go, oh, I just stopped taking my aspirin, and then all of a sudden, now out the blue, I have a heart attack, or I have a stroke, or I have one of the things I've been trying to prevent myself from having. It's because you just stopped the cold turkey, and we know with the human body, you have to kind of work your way down to a minimum and then a close. Okay. So now also don't consider taking a daily aspirin if you have a history of GI bleeding or a history of ulcers even. So once again, now we have determined after you've been taking aspirin for years to so-called prevent heart disease, stroke, and heart attacks, that taking it will do nothing for you. Some have called it a waste of money because it's just putting into, as they call Big Pharma, which is just the drug industry, and you're paying for aspirin that you really don't need unless you have some of these elevated risks. And then now you can't even just stop taking it. You still have to wean down, which means you have to go buy another bottle anyway. Go figure. So just my word of advice there. People, more than half, like I said, of Americans, 45 to 75, have reported taking it for absolutely no damn reason at all. They don't even have a reason. They just take it. So be mindful of the baby aspirin, something you've probably been doing for years, something I know a lot of people, including my own grandparents, used to take baby aspirin, and now come to find out something you've been told for years you shouldn't be doing. So no telling what else is out there that you shouldn't be doing, that you've been told is okay to do for years and years and years, possibly even a whole 2-3 generations, definitely more than 2. So at least 3 generations has been told that this is the best practice or the best things to do. And now you've been taking the absolute wrong thing that could cause intestinal problems and thin blood, and you get cut, you realize why you can't stop bleeding. Your blood is thin as hell. It won't even coagulate now because you have thin ass blood due to this aspirin regimen that you were on the whole time. So be mindful, be aware, check up on the newest updates and studies as well. If anything else comes out about the aspirin thing or anything else that comes out about anything of this nature, I'll keep you guys informed. Any other information or news on this topic that you guys have out there, please share. And you can like, comment, and subscribe and all of that other good stuff as well. And don't forget, you can shoot me an email at lmferrisreview@gmail.com. And also follow me on all social media platforms at Lala Madness or Instagram at Lala Madness_official. And until we meet again,